Marathon should be delayed. Marathon should be free to play. Marathon might be Concord 2.0. Those are the narratives that are trending right now with this game. In today's video, we're going to review an article from Paul Tassi titled Marathon Should Be Delayed in the wake of its closed alpha. We're trying to be as objective as possible here. No one is trying to be overtly pessimistic when we're talking about Marathon. We just want to see the game be successful. A lot of us want Bungie to be successful because we don't want to see any more layoffs for their company. We also don't want to see any more layoffs or harm to Destiny 2. Obviously, we've seen a massive amount of layoffs over the last few years due to lack of revenue, right? And now we have this Marathon, and the reviews are in. All right, the critics are weighing in, and they're all saying it needs to be cooked a little bit more. It's not quite there yet. It's not exciting players enough. It's not moving the needle. I'm noticing across all the metrics of gaming right now that interest in Marathon is extremely low. In fact, even if you look at the Steam charts for how many people are playing it, it is also extremely low. Of course, it's a closed alpha, but even still, you're seeing just very, very low numbers of viewership, of people playing the game, of interest in general for it as a trending topic. The only thing that's really trending with Marathon is it's not especially good right now. Let's see what Paul has to say here. Marathon is now on its 6th day of closed alpha, the test featuring tens of thousands of players, with many more that are still waiting to be let in. But even as new codes have been issued and more are coming today, over this incredibly short period of time, interest has dropped dramatically. Now less than 25% of what it was on launch day. The numbers falling each day consecutively. Even over the weekend when those figures would normally surge. That may change with more codes being issued today, but again, we already had one wave of that and it didn't change this trajectory. So the point he's trying to make here is that tons of these Marathon Alpha codes have been issued now, and all of the players that have gotten it, most of them aren't even playing the damn Alpha at this point. People who are getting access to the Alpha load in, play it for a little bit, say, meh, not for me, and move on, right? There's very little interest in the Alpha itself. It hasn't been an exciting Alpha. It hasn't been a rejuvenating Alpha. It hasn't gotten the players motivated to play this game or get excited to spend the $40 price tag that goes along with it. This, plus experiencing the game myself for close to 20 hours now, comes to one conclusion. Marathon is not ready for the release in just 5 months. It needs more time to cook, as they say, which is a really important point to focus on, because this, even though this is just an alpha right now, and an alpha doesn't always have all the features in the game, we actually have news from Bungie, and Paul goes into this in a moment. We actually have news and information from Bungie about what is going to be brought up in 5 months, right? We're only 5 months away from this game being launched live for everyone to play. And at this point in time, a lot of people are underwhelmed by the quality of this game. Now I'm going to stop you right there. You're about to say, well, this is an alpha. Don't you know what an alpha is? But the expectations I'm seeing from this group are too high. People are mixing up what being an alpha is compared to preview alpha. I'm even hearing people citing the GTA 6 leaks as some sort of evidence that gamers don't understand development. Generally, that is true, but if you think that this current closed alpha is comparable to leaked years-old footage of an in-development game, that is not what this is. This is an excellent point for Paul to bring up, because I think that a lot of people mistake what an alpha is, and honestly, it's kind of an ambiguous term in some ways, but Bungie has actually been pretty clear about what new features will be brought when the actual game arrives, and it's not like some crazy, incredible addition to the game. I mean, here he goes right here. Bungie has already told us what's coming. Visual polish, sandbox balancing, new gear, 2 new heroes, 1 new map. If you think there's some secret 50% of the game that Bungie just isn't talking about that's coming for launch, I have some bad news for you. There more than likely is not some secret 50% hidden part of this game that we will suddenly discover upon purchase, right? This is what the game is. This is what extraction shooters are. And if you aren't impressed at this point in time, then you're definitely not going to be more impressed with 2 new characters and 1 new map and a couple pieces of gear. It's 4 months until the beta, which will serve as essentially a fully developed ad for launch. This is not enough time to see the kind of changes that will dramatically increase interest. And I'm telling you, based on what I'm seeing from those who have been let into the game, interest needs to be dramatically increased. I strongly agree with Paul here. The interest for this game is very, very low. There are very few people that are extremely hyped for this game, and most of the people that are just marathon creators. So, you know, they have a little bit of a bias, you know what I'm saying? But the ones that aren't, people that are not marathon creators that are hyped for this game seem to be few and far between. It's a very small crowd, which is a very scary thing when you're dealing with a new game's launch and in the PvP market as well, where it can be extremely competitive, and you don't want to start off with a bad first impression in a PvP game. You want to launch strong, and you want to build a big community initially and grow with the, you know, over the months and years. I don't think Marathon should release until 2026, and it may even need something as significant as a 4 to 6 month delay past its September target. This would be a way to potentially address significant issues with the game, including but not limited to picking a lane. Marathon needs to ultimately decide if it's going to make changes to make it an even more hardcore extraction shooter, or go more directly after the Tarkov-like player base, or if it's going to head the other direction to make an extraction shooter even more accessible than what we're seeing here, and for a period of time, the past initial few weeks of launch. This is easily the best point to bring up, because right now what Bungie's trying to do is make a more accessible extraction shooter than ever before. One that's easy, streamlined, so people can just load in, jump in, try out an extraction shooter, and head out. But the problem is that an extraction shooter, by its fundamental definition, is meant for hardcore people. It's meant to, you know, go out there with your loot and you risk it all. And if you die, you lose everything. But if you win and you successfully get out of there, if you especially extract, then you get to keep some of the craziest loot, and you go run after run after run, and you get more and more powerful each time you stay alive and successfully extract from that zone, right? That's the whole point. It's meant to be for the most hardcore players. But instead, Bungie is trying to go the exact opposite direction and say, what if we made a hyper casual version of a hardcore game mode? And that mixture of ingredients is a disaster, I think. I think that mixture is going to lead to a very unsuccessful game launch, in my opinion. Solo players, it is abundantly clear that this is quickly going to be a game where you're running with a team of friends, who also must be convinced to spend $40 on Marathon, or you're not running it much at all. Random teams have counter objectives when it comes to contracts or looting patterns. Solo players locked into threes games are limited to skulking around in the shadows, which can be fun for a while, but it's going to get old when you keep running into teams that will often auto-nuke you. This has to change in some capacity quickly. I definitely agree. It would be nice to be able to just load in solo, play by yourself. The magical fourth map. This map has been hyped up by playtesters as the thing to make Marathon stand out in space, but it's not something arriving at launch. But if you push launch, there's probably enough time to get that ready. Even more on one cool map. Even if the initial plan is to make it some sort of unlocked community puzzle, which is what I hear, plans need to change. The price? I'm extremely concerned about the conversion from a sought-after closed alpha to an open beta to a release that will then demand a $40 asking price at the end of the tunnel. It's a way to limit cheaters and promote a premium product, but it's also a way to get a fraction of people playing your game in a sea of free-to-play alternatives. It is much harder than you might imagine to flip to free-to-play, but a delay would at least give it a chance to do that if that trigger was pulled. Marathon, as it stands right now, is free-to-play quality. No one's buying this for $40. Free-to-play, sure, you'll get some people in there. You'll get some people playing it. If you can make the game interesting enough to get them to come back again and again and again, then you're going to have a very successful product. However, the problem is, of course, cheaters, because cheaters love free-to-play games. They can get in, get banned, create a new account, etc., etc. We've seen this time and time again with Destiny 2 and various other free-to-play games, but that cannot deter you from the necessity to have a free-to-play game in the current gaming market. When it launches in 2025 and there's all these other free-to-play alternatives, you're going to struggle so much to build a community. Don't launch with $40 price tag to then make free-to-play later. This game, with its current quality, needs to launch free-to-play, in my opinion. I don't care. They need to have a strong anti-cheat. They need to be able to get the cheaters out quickly. They have to figure that part out. Other games can pull it off successfully. You can do it too, Bungie. I don't know why we're acting like other free-to-play games don't have really strong anti-cheats. There, of course, cheaters do still get into the game from time to time, but they still do have anti-cheats, and they do a pretty good job of keeping cheaters out in general. For months now, I've heard about the push and pull from Bungie wanting more time for development, a 2026 launch, and Sony effectively demanding a 2025 launch. That's great, Sony, but read the room. The publisher is on exceptionally thin ice when it comes to its live service ambitions, with big canceled games and the most spectacular launch failure of all time in Concord. Sony is not happy about that, and they would be smart not to push Bungie into creating Concord 2. Marathon needs to be given every possible chance to succeed, and making Bungie crunch to fix things and throwing it into the wolves as a fall release, one that's literally on the same day as Borderlands 4, mind you, would be a pathetic excuse for support. I mean, literally, this is a recipe for disaster, guys. None of this guarantees success, a 6-month delay, a year delay. You are fundamentally trying to convince both casual and hardcore players to play this kind of extraction shooter, and that's not changing. That's an interesting approach, Bungie. But the game will be in a much worse position if it's forced out 5 months from now instead of taking a lot of time to absorb alpha and beta feedback and address larger, obvious issues. It would be nice if this was one of these, the launch wasn't good, but it got really good with more time before launch happens, instead of waiting for that inevitable reaction. I don't have a great feeling about any of this, honestly, but I do not think this game is in a position to have a strong launch in September, alpha or not, and I agree. This game, in its current state, does not launch well with September. This game, with an added map and a few more characters and a few more weapons, does not launch well in September, all right? And Bungie cannot take this L right now. Not after what's happened with Sony and Concord. It would be a huge disaster, okay? Now, will 6 months delay, a year delay, 2-year delay, whatever it takes, can they make this game a success? That is a very, very hard question to answer, because I don't know that Bungie's vision here is a successful one in general. I don't know that taking a hardcore playlist like extraction shooters and trying to casualify it, if that's a word, like casualify it, make it for casual players, right? I don't know if that's actually a good strategy. I don't think we've seen this really done very often in other games. Obviously, they're trying something new. They're trying to build a whole new audience, and they might be at the certain point where they've had enough time and money invested that they just have to throw it out there and see what happens. But if that's the case, I'm telling you right now, from all the predictions I can see, this game falls flat on its face with the September launch, in my opinion. Let me know what you think about it down in the comment section below. Make sure to subscribe if you enjoyed the video, smash the like button, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Later.